Jack, hello, how are you?
I am good. Very excited to have the first TW Saga game announced. So Thrones of Britannia is a really great example of what we're going for with the TW Saga. It is focused on Viking Age Britain starting after the great heathen armies invaded. And TW Saga games are going to be all about these intense moments in time, focused on very small areas, so that we can go into great detail and tell these exciting stories.
Kind of unlocking a lot of possibilities that we have, but the main one that we have now is an area that you're very passionate about.
When most people think of Viking Age Britain, they think of two main dates. 793, when there's the first Viking raid on Lindisfarne Abbey, seen as the precursor to the Viking raids. I mean, it's where the original medieval total war Viking invasion started. And the second date is 865, when the great heathen army, supposedly in vengeance of the death of Ragnar Lothbrok, comes across the North Sea and lays waste to Britain. But those scenarios, to me, are things we've done before, like Attila's all about big army coming in, destroying everything. Warhammer has Chaos Invasions as the end game. Again, big force coming in, you've got to try and stop the tide. And I'm interested in what happens next. Like, this force has come in, it's overturned the existing political order. Who takes control now? Who emerges from the ashes and goes, right, we're going to seize power, we're going to be in control.
So we put sort of shoved into this sort of melting pot of different cultures and different ambitions with all these petty kings sort of like warring for control, and the central character is this Alfred the Great, who is sort of the poster boy of the scenario. So what's his role in this?
So Alfred is sort of the recent hero. He's defeated the last part of the Great Viking Army in the Battle of Edington, which saw a treaty drawn up with Guthrum, the leader of the Vikings. Under this treaty, Guthrum became a Christian king. He retreated to East Anglia. And so Alfred is sort of in the prime position to take advantage of this calming of the Viking storm, as it were. I mean, he's had a long, hard fight, Alfred. He's the fourth of his brothers to rule the throne of Wessex. Like, some have died of disease, some were killed in combat. He's had to work hard to take control. Can you build a narrative out of this? Like, it's soon after this that you hear he starts referring to himself as King of the Anglo-Saxons. Whereas before, it was quite clearly divided into these more different kingdoms. Like, you had Mercia and East Anglia and Northumbria, parts of which are now under Viking control. Whereas he goes, right, I'm going to be ruler of all of the English, and he builds a political narrative to back it. And it's a narrative that is very much fashioned to give him power, give him strength, give him legitimacy.
So you spoke briefly there about narrative and how that has an effect on the campaign. And a few of the questions that we've seen popping up in the forums is this going to be a very narrative-heavy kind of game, or is it still going to have that sandbox flavour that we're all used to?
The answer is really both. There are going to be these narrative event chains for every playable faction. And we have 10 playable factions in the game. But these chains are going to have different branches to them, different outcomes. So that, based on the choices the player makes, and what happens to AI factions, you're going to get a different narrative each time. And we also have a number of different victory conditions that sort of cater to different playstyles. It's got that sandbox thing where the players can go out and win however they want, but there's also a strong story narrative in there as well. It's trying to bring the two together to make the best total war. I think that works great.
So that's the goal, to make the best total war.
It's always the goal. It's always the goal
Always
of what we
the goal.
make. You know, we're always trying to raise that bar we set for ourselves.
So this is a scenario that we're all familiar with in the office, because obviously we are in the British Isles. There's a lot of places that we are very familiar with when looking at this map, and the map is something of interest for a lot of players as well, because this is still a very large and expansive map, but it's very concentrated.
And it is super zoomed in, so the whole map is about the same size as Attila's, but it just covers the British Isles, so it means you get loads of detail in, and we're going to have a blog soon, we're currently working out when exactly, that will show off exactly what is in that map.
And there's lots of those blogs to come, which you can have lots of info on how those mechanics are going to work as well, and all the interesting things that we've added in. Yeah,
our plan is to have those blogs come out, talk about a lot of the high-level feature stuff in the lead-up to when we do our first gameplay reveal sometime next year.
Which we will be cooking up as soon as possible. This is an expansion, it's not a standalone expansion, this is its own game. It's not a tentpole historical, but it's its own game in its own right, which means it's going to come with all of the sort of sprinklings of new content that you'd expect.
Yeah, so we've often compared Saga games to Ford of the Samurai, because it's the closest example we've done so far. But It's not a precise comparison because Fall of the Samurai tied into Shogun 2. It was expansion for that game. It appeared in the same front end of that. Thrones of Britannia and other Saga titles are going to be completely standalone. You don't need anything else to own them. They don't tie into other projects. They are just their own thing, and that means we're putting a lot of effort into them. So, new voiceovers, new music, new settlement maps, all you'd expect from a standalone Total War game, it's going to be in there.
And this is built off the Attila engine?
It is, though it's easy to make assumptions about what that means for the game. Right. It's hard to talk about exactly what we've done because we can't talk about minimum recommended specs yet, or about things we've done for optimization, but it is based off of Attila, but we're making quite a few changes.
Okay, so it's going to have a completely different sort of tech spec than you'd expect because it's been developed in a different...
It will not have the same minimum and recommended specs as Attila.
Yeah.
I can say that much at least.
Okay.
I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jack. This is Thrones of Britannia.
Kings will rise. One will rule.